It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to talk about the new PvP meta that's rising up. As you can see here, we've got Financer Cookie, Wildberry, Espresso, Dark Cacao, and Vampire Cookie. Now we don't have healers here on this team, so what we're really relying on is the Monocle and Financer's small heals. They're not huge, but those are the two healing elements that we have to keep our team alive. Everyone else is really just tanky in the sense of how they are set up, except Espresso Cookie. We really have a focus on high damage with the critical, but we are running 20% damage resistance, so we have some protection, not really enough that we need. If anything, it would be nice to get to the full 30. Obviously, that's really hard to conjure up sometimes. But what's happening here is the magic candies from both Espresso and Vampire are creating the team's strength because of the free revive that happens on Vampire and the injury and interrupt that happens from Espresso. Those are really the two things that are creating the full havoc on most teams that are they're encountering. Now there are some variations that we can just discuss real quick, but I'll show you the battles with this team specifically. So if you want like a burst setup, you can run this. If you want a more knockback pull together kind of setup, you can run this, but I recommend a higher level sorbet than what I currently have. And if you want a summoner counter, you can run this because Espresso does really good against summon teams. So we're going to go into battle with this team specifically, and we're going to see what we run into. So we'll try it against a whole bunch of different opponents and see how our overall battles run. Now you can see here they're running Pomegranate and Espresso instead of Dark Cacao and Espresso. So they're more banking on more heals, where we're banking on more damage. And you can see that our Vampire gets the good strike in the back, hopefully targeting their Vampire, but more likely targeting their Pomegranate, depending on the position of everybody. We usually lose the two middle cookies with this kind of setup because the two in the front have a lot of damage resistance and a lot of ability to survive. And because of the free revive and the healing that Vampire does from the bites, he keeps alive pretty well. In addition, Financer is protecting the highest attacking cookie, which in this case is our Vampire Cookie. And so you can see, even though they were 1,000 ranks higher than me, in the top 2,600, we still took the win. So let's look at the damage and the results here. Now, if we had Espresso at either a Searing with high crit chances and good damage resistance, or just better damage resistance on our Espresso, we would have a lot longer for the active skills to happen from Espresso, which means that we would have much more damage, because Espresso is doing way more damage than traditional before because of the new skill adjustments and the magic candy. But what was important was the interrupts and the injury, helping take out their healer and helping get things more in line for us. Now, our Financer, honestly, we would have probably done the same amount of damage that theirs did, but ours is 10-star ascended, so that's really not a good comparison to look at why our Financer did better than theirs. I'm almost sure that we're just at the same par level of what they could have done, just a promotion difference there. So that's not really a fair comparison. Now, if we look at their Vampire versus ours, they were either running a full crit build or they were running just a better cooldown setup so that they got more skill activations, or maybe they even have a higher magic candy level. Anything could be possible there. But if we look at the healing, yeah, same thing. They had even better healing than we did on their Vampire, where we had pretty great healing on our Financer. Yet again, I still think this is a promotional level difference of why we outbeat their Financer. But regardless, that's the team that we had set up to help counter against their team. So we took that win. And before I go into the next battle, I'm just going to show you the toppings I'm running on these guys. So super high damage resistance on Wildberry. Just want to keep Wildberry alive as long as possible. Running cooldown on Financer. Get that skill popping as much as possible so that the attack boost is going to Vampire, the protection is going to Vampire, and the damage resistance increase is also going to Vampire. Running the critical build that we've always been running on Dark Cacao, we want damage and we want a lot of it. We're also running crit on Espresso with some decent damage resistance. However, if I could run something better, I would probably run full cooldown with full damage resistance in PvP, but I'm experimenting still what the best alteration for Espresso is currently. But I am between either a high attack build, high crit build, or high cooldown build. You can run almonds, but it really just depends on how much you want that skill to activate. And then Vampire, there's a lot of different ways to set up Vampire as well, but currently this is the toppings I'm using for Guild Battle. So I'm not making changes on this because it's working there and it's working well. So this is the team topping build out layout that we're using. And you can see 1.6 million power just because of the way we have it set up. So let's fight some other teams, see what we go against. So this is likely a summoner team, but probably has Frost Queen and Sea Fairy in the middle. Depends on what they're hiding. And it's Oyster and Pumpkin, so it is just a summoner team. So Espresso should be the hard counter here. As long as Espresso lives and gets 2 skill activations, we should be able to annihilate pretty much the majority of their force here. And Dark Cacao's handling the shields from the Oyster minions. Financer's handling the healing and the health for Vampire. Vampire's handling Cotton from the back line, taking out their heal points. We did lose 2 cookies, but we still ended up absolutely dominating the Summoner team with 3 cookies remaining. And they were about the same rank as us, so there was no issues as far as like skill gap or topping differences. Really just we absolutely massacred their team with Espresso. And so that's the proof right there of the damage. Almost 7 million damage from Espresso. And you already know Wildberry is a pretty good counter to summoners as well because of all those stacks going up. But Wildberry still doesn't even compare in damage the same that Espresso does to the summoner team. So I hope these 2 battles were some good examples of why this team is doing well and why you can see that people are using similar alterations up in the top tier teams. And there's going to be variations, and I discussed those when I went through earlier. But right now, this is the variation, and this is what you're going to be mostly seeing. You can run some different things if you don't have these cookies. Like if you don't have Dark Cacao, let's say, run another healer. If you don't have Wildberry or you don't have Financer set up yet, go ahead and run Hollyberry and run a front healer that can do like Coco. Coco is a good healer. It's not going to be the same. It's definitely going to be a different type of setup. But if you don't have these cookies, those are some alterations you can make to try and skew in the same sense as these teams are doing too. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Are you running a specific team in PvP right now? Do you want to see the counters to this team? Because I've actually already figured it out, funnily enough. Or do you want to discuss other potential teams that should be coming up based on Purple Yam or based on just solely Espresso? Or should we have a team that specifically focuses on Financer or one that specifically focuses on Vampire? There's a lot going on, a lot of new stuff, so I'd definitely love to hear all of your opinions. And every bit of feedback you do helps a bunch, and I always appreciate it. Don't forget to Wildberry punch that subscribe button so that you continue to get daily information, because I will always try to keep you guys updated. And have a wonderful day.